Live with this Christmas stream that I know I kind of said we might start earlier in the day, but we watched Soul instead, and it was real good. And we also, yeah, we watched Soul, and then I made croquettes, which I posted a lot of pictures of, and people were excited about that. So, anyway, Deadly Amish Reunion, when we last left off, we left on quite a cliffhanger, because a lot of things happen in this book in a short amount of time. We're not even technically halfway through, and there's already been, like, a whole league of assassins.
Yeah,
and
it's like fucking Kill Bill over here.
It's like if Kill Bill met 24 and it all took place in the universe of, like...
one afternoon in
yeah,
Serbia.
It's been, like, not even a weekend. It's 24 mixed with Amish, mixed with Jesus movie.
Like, because we're still in the morning. It's been like an afternoon and the beginning of a morning.
Yeah, like they've gone to the bank.
And they're at Randy's house.
They're at Randy's house.
And the shit kicked in.
Randy got
Evil
beaten
brother.
by
Evil half
yeah, her evil half brother, because she found his stash of stalking goodies. So, chapter 7. Oh, yeah, because also Luke opened up the door, and the guy's like, hey, how you doing? As he's, like, pouring gasoline.
And he set the house on
Morgan's
fire.
setting the
Because
house
they
on
called
fire.
The police and they could have caught this guy, but no.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Chapter 7. Smoke was filling the house. Luke heard Ginny and LJ coughing. Head to the living room. We'll leave by the front door, Luke yelled. He swept LJ up into his arms, pushing the child's nose against his shirt. They were almost to the front door when the back of the house exploded. Randy flew through the air and bounced off the wall next to him. She fell hard. He had no idea if she was even alive. Where was Ginny? Luke turned and brushed against her. She was alive and keeping pace with him. Panic was clouding his mind. He shook his head to clear it away. He needed to think. He was not a teenager stuck inside a burning building and helpless. He was a grown man with a responsibility to his family. He was the only hope Ginny and LJ had. Me, Gott was their hope. Luke was the instrument that Gott could use, if he let him. Please, Gott, use me to save their lives. Help me keep my mind steady on your purpose. Ginny, LJ, drop to the floor. It's safer, the air is cleaner. He set LJ down and was gratified to see them both get down immediately. Ginny was overtaken with a fit of coughing. When she got her cough under control, Luke could hear her wheeze when she breathed. A new fear entered his mind. If she had an asthma attack now, it would be bad.
She has asthma now?
And she's had asthma the whole time. That's got brought up a few times. Yeah, because remember, like, the perfume from the bank lady almost set off her asthma.
Yeah, God. They just throw so many tiny details at it makes it harder to remember things.
Something in the other room crashed to the ground. LJ screamed. A blast of heat hit them as flames seared up the wood of the front door and the wall behind them. Daddy, I'm scared, LJ started to sob, just immediately latching on to Luke and not his mom.
Yeah.
It broke Luke's heart to hear
He
it,
needs a father figure.
but he needed to get the situation under control. LJ, I need you to be a big boy. Ginny, LJ crawled toward the front window. They started to crawl on hands and knees, and Luke struggled to drag Randy behind him.
His mom has proved weak.
Yeah.
She got attacked like 3 times now. He can't respect her anymore.
He couldn't hold his own coughs as he breathed in some of the smoke. Faster! He shouted. Dear Lord, let us make it. The Christmas tree was blocking the large picture window, their only hope for escape. Luke dropped Randy and ran to the window, throwing the tree aside. Ornaments and glass balls fell to the floor and shattered. The lights went out as the cord was torn from the electrical socket. So much detail in moving this tree. Yeah. Luke swiveled his head from side to side as he searched for something to break the window. His gaze landed on an umbrella stand near the wall. A large cane was sticking out of it. Surging forward, he yanked the cane out of the stand. His eyes were watering from the smoke, and he blinked to clear them and smashed the cane through the window. The glass shattered, raining down on the floor. The broken shards looked like hundreds of diamonds as they crunched under his heavy boots. It's just randomly hyper-detailed.
They can't go out the front.
It caught on fire. It just exploded on fire.
But, okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
they can't touch it. It's an inferno.
He was in the garage, though. I don't think he poured kerosene on the front.
I think he
that they
ran.
Just walked through like 2 minutes ago.
Well, I think they're implying that he ran out of the garage to the front and, like, soaked it or something. Sweeping the cane back and forth, he broke off as much of the glass from the window frame as he could, then pulled over a heavy braided area rug and threw it over the remaining jagged edges. LJ, come here, my son. LJ ran to his father. Are you okay?
Yeah, I just dropped my phone.
His face drenched in tears. I'm going to lower you through the window. Go stand by the tree outside and wait for your mother, Luke told him. LJ's chin wobbled, but he nodded his understanding. Careful not to bring the boy too close to any of the shards. Luke reached him past the window wreckage and dropped him to the snow below. Go, LJ, to the tree! LJ stood up and ran to the tree, his face white with fear. Jenny. She was already at his side. He grasped her hand and assisted her over the ledge. Better not leave Randy to die. Their eyes met for a single instant before she was out the window.
Really a good friend.
No. The moment her feet touched the ground, she ran to LJ and gathered him in their arms. They were safe. By this time, the smoke was too heavy to see Randy. God damn it!
Oh, no,
But Luke wouldn't abandon her. He dropped to the ground and felt around, trying to recall exactly where he had dropped her, where he moved when he moved to break the window. His hand swept out in a wide circle when his left hand bumped against her. He nearly yelled out in exultation. He had found her. Grasping onto Randy with both hands, he dragged her inch by painful inch to the window. With each step he took, he grew more and more certain that he was too late. But then he felt her pulse. He was unsurprised when he couldn't find one. Oh, when he felt for her pulse, he was unsurprised when he couldn't find one. Is Randy fucking dead?
Why did she die?
He still refused to leave her behind. Well, because there was an explosion that, like, threw her through the air. And she, like, hit the wall. Yeah, that was, like, how this opened up. When she got launched through the air.
Okay.
If he didn't bring her body out, the truth would never be known. And he owed it to her. Okay. Lifting her body into his arms, he leaned over the rag-covered window and gently let her drop into the snow, and he heard a soft cry from Ginny. Looking back, he saw a wall of flames creeping closer. It was less than a foot away from him. Climbing up over the edge, he braced his hand on the sill. A shard that wasn't covered by the rug pierced his skin. Of course it did. He flinched and jerked his hand away. The heat from behind him singed his hair. He was out of time. He dove over the windowsill, tucking and rolling as he landed in the cold snow. He lay still for a second before forcing himself to move. Behind him, the destroyed Christmas tree was engulfed in flames. 2 more seconds and that would have been him. They weren't out of danger yet. The heat from the fire washed over his back. They needed to get further away. Jenny, help me move Randy away from the house. Jenny ran to him and grabbed hold of her friend. Her mouth trembled when she saw Randy's lifeless face. Her mouth trembled.
Gonna be fine.
But she assisted him without a word. They drug Randy away from the burning structure as LJ waited for them near the tree. Jenny had tears running silently down her face. Luke tried not to look at her as he grieved for her friend. You should call the fire department, he said to her.
Now we're calling people.
I already did. No sooner as she said that did they hear the wail of sirens. Wow, they got there that fast.
Yeah, like this response time. You know what else wouldn't have happened if they just called the
all
police?
of it.
None of it, but also Randy would be alive.
Yeah. A large fire truck zoomed up the road, following closely by a pickup truck with red flashing lights on the roof. Excuse me. When the pickup stopped, the driver got out and saw a white helmet on his head, identifying him as the fire chief. They were checked out by paramedics, and Trooper Carter arrived. Hero cop. Did you call him too? Luke whispered to Ginny. She kept her gaze trained on the trooper as he talked with the fire chief. I did. After everything that's happened, I figured he'd be more than willing to buy that we were trapped in a burning house. A few minutes later, Trooper Carter and the fire chief approached them. According to my notes, this house belongs to a Miss Miranda Griggs, age 26. Standing beside her, Luke heard Ginny gulp before she answered. Yes, sir, that's her over there. Their gazes followed her pointed finger. There was a moment's silence while the 2 men stared at the body. I take it you knew her? The chief asked, his voice gentle. Just reading Carter wrong every time. Yeah. Ginny bobbed her head once. We went through the foster care system together. That's true. She was my best friend. There was a definite sob in her voice. Luke edged closer to her so his arm was touching hers. She didn't acknowledge him, but her voice was stronger when she continued. She asked me to come over. We heard something in the garage. Luke went to check it out, and the rest of us waited in the hall. The fire started so suddenly, I didn't even see what happened.
It really wasn't sudden, you know? Because he was in the fucking garage while you were talking to Randy for like half an hour.
Yeah. I know what caused it, Luke said. There was a man in the garage. When I opened the door, he was pouring gas on a pile of firewood. He threw the can in the house, then threw a flare in after it. The chief rubbed his chin. I noticed that the front door had been bolted shut. Ginny's eyes widened. That must have happened before we arrived. I never noticed that. I thought it was just locked. He must have never meant for anybody to get out of the house, which makes this now a first-degree murder. Trooper Carter said. It was a very careful job, obviously planned out. Do either of you have any idea who would have done this? They both nodded and Luke responded. It was Morgan, Randy's half-brother. When we arrived, she was lying on the floor. He had beaten her. Ginny explained to Trooper Carter what Randy had found. Is she broke off. Luke grabbed her hand. Regardless of having dragged Randy's limp body across the yard, Ginny was still hoping her friend was merely unconscious. I'm afraid so. Trooper Carter's normally flat expression brimmed with sympathy. I'm sorry for your loss. We'll put out a bulletin on Morgan. Randy's fucking dead.
Yeah, he's dead in the yard.
Luke opened his mouth to speak. He wanted to ask what they should do next, but his words were cut off by a fit of coughing.
Oh my
His
God,
ears began to buzz.
The other woman is gone.
She's gone.
Unless that's her coughing.
No. It's Luke. He couldn't breathe, and the air in front of him seemed to shimmer as if someone had tossed a handful of glitter in the air in front of him. Oh, now he's becoming homosexual.
Oh, no.
He put out an arm to reach for Ginny. Her face swam before his eyes, and he went down. Ginny shrieked as Luke collapsed. All she could think about was that he was dead, too. She'd already lost him once, and even though she didn't really know him anymore, he was still Luke, the man that she'd loved with her whole being.
I like that she's sad for her.
Yeah.
That he's, like, maybe dead.
Luke! Dropping to her knees in the snow beside him, she frantically searched for a pulse. Easy, miss. A paramedic nudged her aside to kneel next to Luke. He's probably just inhaled too much smoke. We need to get him into the hospital. I should have read it like a Baywatch boy, because that's how every paramedic talks to me.
Yeah.
Luke, buddy, it's time to get up.
Ooh, can you hear me, buddy?
In shock, she watched as the paramedics swarmed about, getting him hooked up to oxygen and lifting him onto the stretcher. When the ambulance door slammed shut behind him, the sense of loss was a physical pain, a sharp, invisible spear in her gut.
I mean, you could probably ride the ambulance with it. It's not like it's COVID times in this book.
Yeah. Mama! LJ yanked on her hand, his little face frightened and tears shrieked. Well, technically, this came out this month. This is a brand new book.
Oh,
Yeah.
I guess it is COVID time.
Where's Daddy
Face
going, Mama?
mask,
Yeah,
lady.
where's your mask, ma'am? Where's Daddy going, Mama? Why wouldn't he wake up? Trooper Carter's face became grave. She was grateful when he didn't ask questions. Her emotions were too shaky to deal with complex explanations right now. What more does he need? All she wanted was to make sure that Luke would be alright.
You might be wondering, what's your fucking kid doing here?
Yeah. It was strange how used to having him around was getting after one day in his presence. Luke Baylor was not the same man she'd married, but she was already certain that he was a man that she could rely on. What she couldn't trust was the way that she was drawn to him. He had made the choice to become Amish, whether he had all the facts or not.
So not the
There was nothing she could do about that, which meant it was irrelevant how wonderful or trustworthy he was, or how his smile made her pulse race. None of that was important. As soon as this ended, if they were still alive, he would return to his Amish home with his plain community. She and LJ would stay here. If she weren't careful, they'd both wind up with their hearts broken, and she did not want that for her son. Nor did she see how she could end up stopping him from getting to know his father, for that was his right, and it was Luke's right to know his son. She'd seen how devastated he was to learn that he'd missed seeing LJ grow. She couldn't deny him the joy of seeing LJ become a man. But how to do that without herself becoming emotionally dependent on him? Oh, she didn't know. This was becoming too complicated. Miss Baylor, Trooper Carter said as he approached her again, I can give you a lift to the hospital if you want to check on your husband. Ginny shook her head. Thank you, but I have my car. I'll follow you. LJ was disappointed. I wanted to ride in the police car.
Glad he's bouncing back.
LJ's a weird character.
LJ is like, he's just gone half the time.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes he's like a real child with emotions and feelings, and then other times he's like,
yeah, I don't know. Trooper Carter lowered himself to his level. You want to ride with me, boy? Maybe I can have someone else drive your mom's car. How does that sound? She sighed. There was no way she could say no. Sure enough, the little boy's eyes widened and a grin spread across his adorable face. Will you turn on the lights and the siren? LJ stared up at the trooper, his eyes pleading. Trooper Carter chuckled. Ha ha, I guess we can do that. She cringed. Same. Yeah. But managed a weak smile for her son. The last thing she wanted was to be seen sitting in a police car with sirens blaring and lights flashing. However, there was much to be said for the relief at seeing her son smiling, especially after the harrowing day they had up until this point. A quick glance over her shoulder told her that Randy's body had already been moved. "We'll find him," Carter murmured. She thanked him, then followed him to the police cruiser. At the car, his partner stood waiting. "Hey, Jill," Trooper Carter greeted the woman. "How would you like to drive a civilian car for a change, while I give my pal LJ here a fancy ride in the cruiser?" "I don't know why you're talking to me that way." Jill rolled her eyes. Fine, fine. Can I have the keys, please?" Jill's gonna die. It's another woman. Jenny dropped the keys into her open palm. The entire way to the hospital, LJ chattered at the trooper, questions pouring from him at lightning speed.
As long as she keeps her lines to a minimum and doesn't show any interest in Luke.
Jenny soon gave up trying to listen to the conversation. Her thoughts were too consumed with Luke's situation. Surely if he had died, or if his condition had worsened, someone would have contacted Trooper Carter, wouldn't they? No. She'd hoped that was the case, but never having been in this situation, was unsure what to expect when they arrived. Before she exited the vehicle, Trooper Carter stopped. "I had a purpose for wanting to drive you. I didn't want any other ears to hear this. But whatever happens, I want you to promise me that you won't go back to your apartment. This is too coincidental and I don't like it. Morgan, Steve, too many variables. You need to disappear, but keep in contact." The two directives seemed contradictory, but she nodded her head. "I get it, and we plan to do just that as soon as we can collect Luke to go with us. We're still set to head to his uncle's house. It's outside of Meadowville, halfway to Spartansburg. Most of the houses belong to Amish families. It's a very rural area. Highly unlikely anyone would think to look for us there, especially since most of the people I see on a daily basis have no idea who Luke is or where he's from." In the emergency room, their way was barred by a nurse. "Family only." Jenny took a deep breath. "We are family. I'm his wife and this is his son." "I want to see Daddy." LJ went into a full pout mode, his lower lip protruding, his bright blue eyes narrowing to slits as he glared at the nurse. "It's okay, honey," Jenny murmured. The nurse gave her a doubting expression. "Look, it's a long story, but he really is my husband." With the support of the state trooper at Jenny's side, the nurse gave in, although not gracefully. Can we not bitch at the nurse?
Yeah,
She's doing her job.
Doing her job. You can't let anybody in.
Jenny and LJ were allowed back in the examination room, and to her relief, Luke was alive, although he didn't look happy. "Jenny, LJ," he exclaimed when they entered his curtained cubicle. "Ah, I was getting worried." LJ clambered up to sit on the edge of the thin mattress with Luke. Jenny stepped close, but was careful not to get too close, remembering her resolution to keep her emotional distance. Like, God damn, if not now, when, Jenny? Luke gave her a questioning glance, and she ignored it. "I've never seen anyone hit the ground so fast. Are you okay?" she asked him. His cheeks and the tips of his ears reddened. "Yeah, I'm good. I woke up on the ambulance. I just breathed in too much smoke." He hesitated. The indecision on his face told her he was trying to decide if he should say something.
How is it this, normal dude is the one that went down and not the asthma house?
Yeah. Well, because he was too busy picking everybody up and throwing them out, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
"They're out searching for Morgan," Jenny commented. "Trooper Carter came in with me. He all but ordered me to go off the grid until Steve or Morgan or anyone else gunning for me is found." His brow raised. "Off the grid?" "You know, hide, no cell phones, leave no trace, that sort of thing." "Yeah, I know what it means. Did you remind him we're heading to my Uncle Jed's house? You can't get more off the grid than an Amish community." She snorted in reply, suppressing the odd desire to laugh. It seemed somehow wrong to laugh at a time like this. Yeah, I told him."
He is in the hospital.
"When can you leave?" "Hopefully soon." Soon turned out to be 3 hours. Luke was examined, and the cops came and went, taking with them his vague description of the man who set the fire. I mean, they have pictures. It was late afternoon before he was released from the hospital.
Yeah, they know who it is.
Yeah.
They identified the guy.
He's been in prison. He has a record. The parking lot was coated with a fresh layer of soft white snow. It was fluffy and pretty, and as slick as stepping on a sheet of ice. They walked with careful steps to the car. Still, Jenny's right leg shot out from underneath her when she hit a particularly icy patch. Luke caught her, wobbling as the force of her weight hitting nearly took them both down. The momentary contact rocked her as his warm breath washed over his face. It smelled like mints. Why was she noticing this? Flushing,
It's right in your face.
she pushed away as soon as she could stand without embarrassing herself. Exhausted but alive, the three made it to the car. "Mom, I'm hungry." LJ's whine broke into somber silence that covered them like a thick fog. "Okay, honey, we'll find something to eat." Chicken nuggets and fries at a drive-thru turned out to be the best thing she could come up with at the moment. "Your uncle, I know he lives off Route 77. I don't recall the road I turn on, though." She turned off the main street and headed up past the hill, past a quick fill gas station and away from Meadville. It's just random details we do not need.
Yeah, it really clutters things, but I guess it
I'm
fills
sure-
out the story. Like, we could probably make a map of this
Yeah.
town by the end of it.
Like, I guess some people probably like it. Like, it is detailed and it's like world building, but like, I'm just like, take it out.
Yeah, I don't know if we need this much. We already have so much to keep track of. It's like 8 people that want to kill this woman, so that's enough.
"You got another 15 or 20 minutes before you come to it," Luke said. "It's about 5 minutes after the turn off to Centerville. Like, I feel like I can go to this town."
Yeah.
"I got it." She turned on the radio for some music, but then turned it off when the news came on. She really didn't want to hear about the fire. She'd have nightmares for the rest of her life about Randy's death.
I can't believe she's fucking dead. It's absolutely because she agreed to go to the farm. And they were like, well, I don't want to be stuck writing this woman, though, so they killed her.
"I wonder," she began, then stopped. "What?" Jenny released a sigh. "I wonder if I'd seen Randy's call when she first tried to get a hold of me yesterday. Would she still be alive now?" Luke placed his hand over hers. "Jenny, you can't do that to yourself. It's not right that she died, but there is nothing you can do to change it. Morgan is responsible for what happened, not you. I know that, in my mind, but I'm not sure I believe it." That is the end of chapter 7. I'm going to pause there because it's a little long, and Instagram is probably going to kick me off in the next, 5 minutes anyway. All right, we might be back in a little bit. Bye!
Bye.